Welcome back to another battle between... In a battle between Bor Burison, the primordial king and grandfather of Thor, and Mangog, a conceptual entity created from the hatred of billions upon billions of beings, even in their basic forms. Both characters represent different peaks of power, yet both revolve around the central axis of Asgard. Bor is the embodiment of might, absolute authority, and the primordial foundation of the Asgardian kingdom, while Mangog is the direct consequence, the shadowy reflection of the arrogance and bloody conquests that Asgard has carried out throughout the history of the universe. To understand who would ultimately be the last one standing, we need to delve deep into the origins, nature of their powers, combat mentality, and feats of each entity. Let's get started. First is Bor, the primordial king of Asgard. Bor Burison is not merely a name mentioned in the oldest legends of Asgard. He is the true foundation upon which the might of the kingdom was built. As the son of Buri, the first Asgardian god born from the void, and the father of Odin, Bor represents an era when the Asgardian gods were still wild, brutal, and unbound by the moral codes or protective principles that Odin would later attempt to establish. He was a great warrior, a brilliant leader, and the one who guided Asgard through its earliest life or death wars to seize control of the Nine Realms. Unlike Odin, who learned to refine his power and become a wise all-father, Bor possessed a raw, primordial, and extraordinarily intense source of power. He is said to have accessed and wielded a form of energy similar to the Odin Force, but in a purer and more untamed state, sometimes referred to as the Bor Force. This source of energy allowed him to accomplish feats that even modern Asgardian gods would find astonishing. Bor could manipulate weather on a cosmic scale, create energy storms capable of tearing apart galaxies, and cast ancient spells whose knowledge had been lost over thousands of years. Bor was one of the most powerful entities to have ever existed in the Nine Realms. His body was forged through millions of years of continuous combat against the most dangerous enemies in the universe, from colossal cosmic monsters to dark forces such as the Dark Elves and Frost Giants. His strength far surpassed the limits of an ordinary Asgardian. He could lift and throw masses equivalent to asteroids, withstand direct attacks from divine weapons without suffering harm, and move at speeds that allowed him to appear anywhere in the Nine Realms in an instant. Bor's skin and muscles possessed superhuman density, making him nearly impervious to conventional physical or energy-based attack. Bor's combat ability was not based solely on brute strength, but also on a perfect combination of battlefield experience. He led Asgardian armies in wars of territorial expansion, conquered realms, and established Asgard's dominance across the universe. Throughout these wars, Bor directly confronted and defeated the most powerful kings and warlords of other races. One of his most notable feats was his war against the kingdom of the Dark Elves. Bor led a brutal crusade, destroying most of their race and forcing the survivors to flee into the darkness. His arrogance and absolute belief in Asgard's superiority during his reign planted the seeds for future tragedies. Bor believed that Asgard had the right to rule and determine the fate of other realms, an imperialistic mindset that created countless enemies and generations of accumulated resentment. This very hatred, as we will see later, became the fuel for one of the greatest threats Asgard had ever faced. Bor's appearance in the modern era, particularly in storylines such as Thor, God of Thunder, clearly demonstrated just how terrifying he was. When resurrected, Bor was not an aging king, but a tremendously powerful entity who immediately recognized the weakening and changes within Asgard under the rule of Odin and Thor. He viewed the later generations as weaklings who had tainted Asgard's pure legacy. In his confrontation with Thor and Loki, Bor displayed overwhelming power, easily neutralizing their attacks and proving that the gap in strength between him and the later generations was enormous. He could only be defeated through a complex plan involving the manipulation of time and space, along with the sacrifice and maximum effort of the strongest warriors. Bor's weakness, although extremely difficult to exploit, lies precisely in his rigidity and outdated way of thinking. He underestimated the power of adaptation as well as the strength of the bonds and unity that Odin and Thor had built. Bor believed in absolute power and the purity of Asgard, which made him predictable in situations that required flexibility or tactical sacrifice. Furthermore, his source of power, although immensely powerful, remained tied to his nature as an Asgardian god. This means that he was still subject to the laws of mythology and could be affected by entities or weapons capable of nullifying or absorbing divine energy. Now, let us move on to Mangog. Mangog is not a creature born through any conventional means, nor is it a god or some random cosmic monster. Mangog is a conceptual entity, created from the crystallization of the resentment, despair, and hatred of billions upon billions of beings across the universe. These beings were once conquered, oppressed, and destroyed by Asgard during its territorial expansion under the ancient kings, including the reign of Bor. When their hatred reached its peak, it took physical form as a living entity, a giant whose power was specifically designed to overthrow and destroy Asgard. Mangog's sole purpose is the destruction of Asgard, and it will not stop until that mission is complete. This makes Mangog a more terrifying enemy than any Dark Lord or God, because it cannot be bribed, threatened, or negotiated with. Mangog's power is limitless because it is directly proportional to the level of hatred that beings throughout the universe hold toward Asgard. As long as injustice, oppression, or memories of Asgard's crimes remain, Mangog will continue to exist and grow stronger. Physically, Mangog possesses strength far beyond that of most Asgardian gods, including Odin at various points in time. It can easily lift and throw mountains, withstand attacks from Mjolnir without being phased, and move with enough speed to level entire cities within seconds. Mangog's body is composed of a superior form of matter, making it nearly immune to all forms of physical damage. Wounds inflicted by divine weapons heal rapidly, fueled by an endless stream of resentful energy. Mangog's most unique ability is its interaction with the very source of Asgard's power. Mangog has the ability to absorb and convert the Odin Force, turning the energy that sustains the lives and powers of Asgardian gods into fuel for itself. During historical confrontations, when Odin attempted to use his ultimate power to destroy Mangog, the entity absorbed part of that energy, grew even stronger, and pushed Odin into a stalemate. This makes every attempt to use conventional divine power against Mangog a double-edged sword. The harder it is attacked, the more dangerous the enemy becomes. In addition, Mangog is capable of wielding legendary weapons. It has wielded the Twilight Sword, an ancient blade with destructive power comparable to some of the most powerful weapons in the Marvel Universe. This sword can not only cut through matter, but also sever streams of divine energy and shatter magical barriers, making it a direct threat to any Asgardian god. In its battles against formidable enemies, Mangog easily defeated Odin, forcing the Allfather to resort to extreme measures and seek the assistance of other entities in order to seal it away. In its subsequent returns, Mangog continued to demonstrate its overwhelming power. It confronted Thor, and although Thor is one of the strongest warriors, he could only hold his ground and was unable to defeat Mangog through physical strength or conventional lightning attacks. Every strike from Thor seemed only to increase the entity's rage and power. One of the most terrifying aspects of Mangog is its nearly absolute ability to recover and regenerate. Even when torn apart into pieces or cast into void dimensions, Mangog can still reassemble itself because its origin does not lie in physical matter, but in the collective consciousness of the universe. To truly defeat Mangog, heroes cannot rely solely on inflicting physical damage. They must find a way to sever its source of energy, usually by changing the universe's perception of Asgard, or by using higher-level conceptual powers to erase the entity's very existence. However, Mangog is not without weaknesses. Its greatest weakness is its complete dependence on the concept of hatred against Asgard. If Asgard were to change its nature, abandon its imperial past, and become recognized by the universe as a true force for protection, Mangog's source of power would weaken. Furthermore, despite its physical strength and ability to absorb divine energy, Mangog can still be affected by entities with higher-level conceptual manipulation abilities, or by weapons capable of separating its soul and consciousness from its physical form. Its lack of complex tactical intelligence is also a limitation, as Mangog primarily acts on its destructive instincts, making it vulnerable to tactical traps or situations in which its brute strength becomes ineffective. And now, we have two mighty entities facing each other. If we judge them purely by raw power in their base forms, Bor appears to hold the advantage in terms of combat skill and versatility. He is a master of ancient magic, a warrior with millions of years of experience, and the wielder of an incredibly powerful primordial energy sword. During the opening moments of the confrontation, Bor could inflict significant damage on Mangog. His divine energy attacks, reality-manipulating spells, and overwhelming physical strength could slow Mangog's advance, perhaps even tear apart its current physical form. Bor would not hesitate, show no mercy, and would attack with all the brutality he once used to conquer the 9 realms. However, this is precisely where Mangog's true nature comes into play, and where Bor encounters a wall he cannot overcome. Every attack Bor launches ultimately originates from the power of Asgard, and Mangog was specifically designed to exist, grow, and feed on that very power. Every burst of divine energy Bor unleashes, every ancient curse he casts, not only inflicts damage, but also fuels Mangog's fury. The more Bor displays the might and arrogance of an Asgardian king, the stronger Mangog becomes, because that is the very essence of the hatred it embodies. Furthermore, Bor faces a paradox that cannot be solved through strength alone. He is fighting against his own legacy. Mangog is not an enemy that can be defeated by severing its head or crushing its body. It is the embodiment of billions upon billions of screaming souls. To defeat Mangog, Bor would have to deny his own past actions, acknowledge the wrongdoing behind the conquests he has always regarded as glorious. But Bor, with his rigid character and absolute belief in Asgard's greatness, could never do that. His arrogance would become a deadly trap, driving him to keep attacking with Asgard's power, unknowingly making his enemy stronger with every passing second. From a tactical perspective, Bor might attempt to seal Mangog away or banish it into another dimension. However, history has already proven that such measures are only temporary. Mangog has been imprisoned before, yet it has always found a way to return, stronger and more terrifying than ever, whenever hatred toward Asgard rises once again throughout the universe. Bor does not possess the knowledge of higher conceptual entities or methods of erasing existence in the way modern sorcerers like Dr. Strange can. Bor's magic is the magic of war and conquest, not the magic of resolution and cosmic balance. Mangog's endurance is limitless, while Bor's power, immense as it is, still has limits when it comes to sustaining continuous cosmic level attack. Mangog never tires, never feels pain, and has no will that can be broken because it has no individual consciousness to break. It is a machine of destruction powered by the very gravity of hatred itself. In the end, Bor would exhaust himself. His divine defenses would shatter under the weight of billions upon billions of relentless blows, and he would be consumed by the very force whose existence his own actions helped create. In the Marvel Universe, conceptual entities generally hold an overwhelming advantage over physical or divine beings, unless those divine beings ascend to a comparable conceptual level, such as Odin with the complete Odin Force, or Thor as Rune King Thor. Bor, despite his immense power, is still a god in the traditional sense. He never transcends the limits of the Asgardian concept. Mangog, by its very nature, is the perfect countermeasure, the destroyer specifically designed for the concept of Asgard. Although Bor Burison is one of the mightiest and most terrifying kings in Asgard's history, with primordial power capable of shaking entire realms, he cannot defeat Mangog. This battle stands as a testament to the unavoidable law of cause and effect within the universe. Bor sowed the wind, and Mangog is the storm he must ultimately reap. Mangog's combination of divine energy absorption, limitless endurance, and a conceptual nature that cannot be destroyed through conventional physical means would gradually wear Bor down and ultimately crush the primordial king. Therefore, in my opinion, Mangog would be the last one standing, not because it is smarter or more skilled, but because it embodies an undeniable truth. Oppression, no matter how mighty it becomes, will ultimately create the force that destroys itself. Bor would fall beneath the weight of the very legacy he built, leaving behind a bloody lesson about the limits of divine power when confronted with the fury of the entire universe. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much.